Support for Jalen and Jacoby comes from Blue Apron. Blue Apron delivers farm-fresh, perfectly portioned ingredients and step-by-step recipes so you can make incredible meals at home. Rediscover how fun cooking can be while reducing food waste and supporting sustainable farms and fisheries. Visit blueapron.com/Jalen to get your first 3 meals, a $30 value, free with free shipping.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head to death. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me your boom.
He is Jalen Rose.
What up, Dale?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool
we are Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio. What are we doing?
We get the people what they want.
Let's give them what they want right now.
Shout out.
If the people wanted the NBA playoffs to get a little spicy, they have. The 8-seed Bulls have not just beaten the Celtics twice, but beaten them pretty easily. What is happening in these games?
First and foremost, I can't address the Celtics without talking about the fact their best player, Isaiah Thomas, recently lost his sister, and you could tell that he's emotionally and the team is psychologically depressed because he normally has a different bounce to his step, a different energy about his play. And when your best player doesn't have that, that does send a ripple effect throughout your roster. But with that being said, you got to give the Bulls a lot of credit, starting with Jimmy Butler, their best player, doing it on the defensive end, being a matchup nightmare on the offensive side of the basketball. Dwayne Wade, when he's making threes, he's really tough to guard, even at this point of his career. But then there are a couple of unknowns that no one saw coming during the season. One, when the turbulence was happening earlier in the year and Rajon Rondo was posting things on Instagram, you never would have thought that he had this level of production in the playoffs, which is much needed for the Chicago Bulls and almost be dominant, especially when they went out and traded for Cameron Payne, who's in street clothes. And also Robin Lopez, who's been dominant on the boards, been a physical presence up front, along with Portis and Mirotic.
Zipser.
Really having their way against the front line of the Boston Celtics.
Zipser is the greatest basketball player in the history of the sport. I just want to recognize that quickly based on a one-game sample. And then we have this. Marcus Smart maybe flipping off a fan or flipping off a Bulls fan. There's something happening there at the game. What do you make of that gesture towards the fans?
Usually when that happens, either a fan of the home team or a fan of the road team or just somebody that has a ticket to the game decides they want to yell something at a player. Player has to obviously find a way to show restraint. In particular, Marcus Smart, who in college had an incident where he went a couple of rows into the stands to confront a fan. It's unfortunate to see that he still, hasn't shaken off the fact that people are going to yell things at you and you got to find ways to block it out. But ultimately, when you buy a ticket, that doesn't give you a license to do, say, or yell anything at a player out on the court. So it'll be interesting to see how the league handles that. He will be getting fined.
I'm a die-easy Celtics fan from Massachusetts. I've been to games in the old Garden and the new Garden, and I don't know how I feel about this. The home crowd was booing the number 1 seed Celtics after they had a rough start in the game. Do you support the home crowd turning on a playoff team?
It happens in sports. They sympathize with what's going on off the floor, obviously. I appreciate the way from afar that they rallied around Isaiah as a community, as fans, as an organization, his coaches and his teammates. But once you toss the basketball up, those paying customers who are diehard Boston Celtics fans, unlike yourself, and understand the history of a franchise that has 17 championships and the number 1 seed, they want to see that team perform. And this is the first time since the playoff format has been 7 games in the first round where a number 1 seed in the best of 7 series dropped the first 2 games on their home floor. So this is something that no one has seen, so that was going to be their outpour.
Let's move on to the Clippers and the Jazz series, a series that saw one of the most impactful players in it go down in just 13 seconds. And then the Jazz won game 1. The Clippers now responded with a win in game 2. How do you feel about this Clippers team moving forward?
No Rudy Gobert for the rest of the series, possibly. If that's the case, the Clippers win this series. Other than that, they will be in trouble. You have to give credit to their 3 best players, DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, but more importantly, Chris Paul, who not only get you the assists, but he also got you the timely plays, in particular timely buckets when needed. And they were playing on their home floor. I didn't anticipate that they would drop the first 2 games. But for Utah, they're used to having that anchor back there, the stifle tower, Rudy Gobert, to change, alter, and block shots. So without him in there, their defense does look dramatically different.
What about your man, the truth, Paul Pierce, with the reconnaissance? He was going to the bucket. He was hitting little turnarounds and jump shots. Has Paul Pierce just been saving it all year for this moment?
It's his final season. And so when you put on your gym shoes and you put on your uniform, you get a chance to perform in the playoffs for a coach that you won a championship with in Boston, in front of fans since he grew up in the Los Angeles area, basically playing in his own backyard. It rejuvenates you a little bit. It was good to see him get some minutes and be productive.
If you're Steve Ballmer and you're looking at this team, this core, there's a lot of decisions to be made in the offseason. If you were Steve Ballmer, what would you do?
They never addressed truly the small forward position in the league, where the Cavs have LeBron James, the Spurs have Kawhi Leonard, and now the Golden State Warriors have Kevin Durant. If you don't address that position, you can't beat those teams. And to me, that was the glaring weakness of this team the last handful of years, because they've kept their core front court intact with Blake and DeAndre, same with their backcourt and CP3 and JJ. But since 2 or 3 of those players are going to have the opportunity to be free agents this year, I automatically anticipate JJ Redick could be gone. Just based on the simple dynamic in a salary cap sport. His 2 backups, Jamal Crawford and Austin Rivers, both make more money than him. And he's a knockdown shooter, so I think somebody's going to give him a big check. For Blake Griffin, I think it depends on the trajectory of the playoffs. I know Doc Rivers came out and said you don't want to break up a team that's consistently won 50 games, and that's true. But I do think this team has reached the ceiling, especially if they continue to struggle in this first round against a Utah Jazz squad without Rudy Gobert.
So Doc Rivers has been quietly talking to reporters and just kind of leaking the fact that, you know what this team should do? We should keep everybody together, including myself. We should keep everybody together and extend into the tax. So just as a paycheck-to-paycheck type of dude, my question is this: if you're Steve Ballmer, like, why not? You have billions of dollars. Why not just pay the extra $25 million or whatever it is to put together this team and make them better?
How about all of the monikers for the last couple of years? Lob City, Chip City, having the opportunity to beat a team in Los Angeles with the Lakers being lottery bound the last few seasons. The Clippers not truly able to seize that. And you see them on commercials, you see them on billboards, and rightfully so. All-star level players, really marketable, playing in Los Angeles. But at some point, it has to go back to the floor and is about winning. So when Steve Ballmer purchased the team for $2 billion, that is exactly what he was hoping to get when he bought that squad. And for them not to be able to go to that next step, he's going to have to decide who would be the player that he doesn't bring back. You're bringing back CP3 if you can, no doubt about it.
He's coming back.
DeAndre Jordan is already under contract. I talked to you about JJ Redick. The piece they're going to have to decide on is Blake Griffin.
I love how you already had JJ Redick out the door. I already told you he's leaving, so now we have to make the decision on Griffin. One thing that happened that I absolutely love to see is I don't root against anybody. I want to see people succeed, and it made me feel so good to see Kyle Lowry hit that dagger jump shot in that game against the Bucks. He's had confidence issues. He's had performance issues over the playoffs. It's been well documented. How did it feel to you when you saw him sink that jumper?
I felt the Toronto Raptors would win Game 2 as they did. Kyle Lowry was going to have to be a factor. He was, in particular, on the play you talked about. DeMar DeRozan still was aggressive, trying to find ways to get his numbers. But the reason why they won the game was Serge Ibaka. In particular, his three-point shooting, stretching the floor, giving them size, giving them toughness. He was the reason why they were able to take Game 2.
I love it when Serge gets hot, because when he does hit a three, he's just got that form. He's got like a big man shooting form, and when it goes in, it feels kind of fluky, but then it goes in again, and then it goes in again. You're like, this isn't a fluke. Like, this dude can really shoot. I love Serge Ibaka. Please watch the Grantland documentary, Son of the Congo. Google it if they didn't just take it off the internet forever. It's funny because it was Kevin Durant, don't come back too early, rest, save yourself for the playoffs so you'll be 100% for the playoffs. And now, the way that it was a competitive game through 3 quarters, and then the Warriors pulled away from the Blazers, now it's almost like, Kevin Durant, don't rush yourself back. In this series, we might need you in another series. But is there a certain point where it's like he's going to be rusty unless he gets basketball time?
Russ isn't going to be the issue. Health clearly is going to be the issue. Responding from a hyperextended knee, now dealing with a calf. There may have been some You overcompensate when you're trying to come back from an injury, probably put a little too much pressure on his calf, probably some tightness there. Maybe it's something more serious. But if he's healthy and ready to go throughout the rest of the playoffs with the ability to play the way we've seen him play, they'll be just fine.
I think there is so much focus on Durant's calf, and he's questionable. Is he going to play game 2? If he's not 2, is he ready for 3? That one thing that's being overlooked is Matt Barnes and Sean Livingston are both dealing with health issues themselves. If you continue to deteriorate this Warriors roster, at what point does it become a serious problem?
I think it's a serious problem if you don't have the Splash Brothers, KD, Draymond, Andre Iguodala, or Livingston.
Okay.
As long as those gentlemen are in uniform, I think the Golden State Warriors are in pole position clearly to win the Western Conference.
You know, I don't like to do hypotheticals, but imagine that Kevin Durant's calf or whatever it is actually bad and he does not come back. Will you still favor the Warriors to win the West?
It's a tough call. It is a hypothetical. I don't think, however, if they made it to the next round, say they played against the Clippers, they should find a way, especially with home court advantage, to advance. You can't overlook the Spurs ever, in particular, as long as they have Kawhi Leonard, who I think is the second best player in the game on their roster. But I just don't think they have the foot speed up front. It wouldn't surprise me if they still were able to win the West without KD, but they wouldn't beat the Cleveland Cavaliers if he wasn't able to go.
So you're saying right now unequivocally that the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to be in the NBA Finals?
Yes, I am.
When I was watching the Cavaliers, you know I've picked the Cavaliers to win the championship from the very beginning of the season. It was a little concerning to watch J.R. Smith sit on the sidelines staring out into nothing after he had a left hamstring sprain. What does his injury and his reaction to it tell you about his availability?
In a different way, the same thing as KD. They'll need J.R. Smith if they're going to win the championship. And I know a lot of people look at the roster and say, wow, you have 3 All-Stars already in LeBron, Kyrie, and Love. But he gives them that ace knockdown shooter that can go for 6 or 7 threes in a given game or a given half, that can sway a basketball game. So I think regardless of whether he's healthy throughout the East, they'll find a way to advance. But J.R. Smith, though he's never been an All-Star, is a key for the Cavs if they're going to win it all.
And if you remember last season, he played some underrated defense, especially in that Raptors series against DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. So you know I'm a bit of a hater. There's a little bit of negativity in my heart. And I'm just going to throw this out there. 0 to 100. How much of Mike D'Antoni's success in Houston is because of fit and luck, not necessarily his coaching ability?
It's always 50% for a coach because it's one thing to draw things on the clipboard, but it's up to the guys in uniform to bring it to life. And so Daryl Morey, who's always been a guy as a general manager that wanted to play the small ball, three-point happy type of basketball, including in the D-League, now has a roster of the gentlemen that I just named that can actually make that come true. And Mike D'Antoni, a coach that's been able to function in that sort of offense for a really long time. So it seemed like a perfect fit, and it is.
I also like that he made basically one strategic move, which was put James Harden to the point guard spot. And he did. He's done a lot with that offense. But I think moving James Harden to point guard seems like his signature move of the season that could put him in the Coach of the Year conversation. And I'm going to say it. It's kind of obvious. But here's my question. Do the Warriors, as they watch the Rockets play, do they worry about the Rockets?
The Warriors are worried about themselves. They won the championship 2 years ago. They won 73 games last year. They went to the NBA Finals. You lose a few role players, strengthen numbers. Now you add KD, a former MVP. Now strengthen All-Stars. As long as they're healthy, they're going to respect their opponent, but I don't think they'll fear the Houston Rockets, especially since they're a three-point happy shooting team, and the Golden State Warriors shoot it with the best of them when they get going.
If we see a matchup between the Spurs and the Rockets, which looks more than likely at this point, what do you think happens in that series?
I think the Rockets, because they can score points in flurries and spread the floor, give the Spurs a lot of problems. They're an older bunch, in particular up front, when you look at giving Pau Gasol minutes, giving Manu Ginobili minutes on the perimeter, that the Houston Rockets' speed and three-point shooting and the ability to spread the Spurs out and make them rotate from side to side defensively will be a problem.
We have to address this Carmelo situation. There's a lot of layers.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
You know who's giving him the straight talk, Jalen Rose?
Who's that?
My man, Coach Fizdale. We didn't have a show yesterday, so we didn't spend an hour breaking down his glorious, data-filled rant that left us with two great sound bites. One,
take that for data.
And my favorite,
but they're not going to rook us.
What did you think of Mr. Fizdale's little rant against the officiating?
I got a lot of love for Coach Fizz. I appreciate the job he's done this year in Memphis. Other than their core group of guys, Conley, Zebo, Gasol, and Tony Allen, who's out for this series, he's taken what's really been a nondescript roster. Obviously, Vince Carter isn't no longer in his prime, and made them a surprising playoff team without Chandler Parsons, who was their big-time off-season acquisition, who's been injured all year. With that being said, I love both of those sound bites, but I want to tell people what they really were there to represent. It wasn't about Game 2. It was about Game 3. He's been around the league long enough to know. I need to get out in front of this right now because they've gotten calls on their home floor. And if this gets to Game 3 and they're continuing to get the whistle like this, that means we may lose the third game. And you know what happens usually in the first round of the playoffs when you get down 0-3? You end up getting swept. And so what he was doing is sacrificing 30 of his hard-earned $1,000 to put himself out there, show personality, by the way, and let everybody know that the next game he's looking for a different whistle.
I don't think he's saying we lost because of the officiating. What I think he is saying is we will not win without the officiating. So let me burn this $30,000 to make them think just a little bit, maybe a split second before they do or don't blow that whistle in our favor in Game 3 on our home floor. I think it was great. And I love the do not rook us part too. I just love it. I love it so much. Jalen Rose, now we are learning that the Memphis Grizzlies players are pulling together the money to pay for Coach Fizdale's fine. What does that tell you?
That's a terrific gesture. But you know what he would love more? If they actually went out and won Game 3.
It's like, how about instead of pulling together the money, you guys just pull together enough buckets and effort to get us a game against the Spurs. Great point, Mr. Rose. And I heard Windhorse say this. Is it a thing where coaches will actually go to the front office and say, I'm about to get us a fine, and they kind of give them the wink, wink, go ahead?
It all depends on the situation. But yes, that takes place.
Mike Conley bought 500 tickets for Grizzly fans. First of all, that's a lot of tickets. You know, that's a very nice thing for him to do. And a lot has been said about him, especially in this series, about not getting technicals. Fizz even brought it up during his rant. And as someone who had been overlooked all year, is he finally getting some of the attention that he deserves?
Well, he's always been a terrific player. People were surprised initially when Memphis signed him and gave him that $40 million deal a handful of years ago. He outplayed expectations. He got a huge deal this past offseason. And for a guy that hasn't been an all-star, he's one of the players that consistently has played at that level on a nightly basis on both ends of the floor. And Coach Fizdale, it went over a lot of people's head, was talking about Mike Conley having class. He was basically saying he gets fouled, but yet during his career, he's never received a technical foul. So this now allows you the opportunity to invest $500 in tickets and actually give it back to the community versus giving it to the league and you don't know where that money goes.
Exactly, Jalen Rose. For those that listen every day, you've heard this before, but for those of you that are just driving in your car home and haven't heard it before, what needs to change about the NBA fine money system?
The league easily should say we have 30 teams that play in 30 different situations, cities, counties, neighborhoods, towns, whatever. The fine money occurred by a player for that team should stay in that city. There should be a check presentation at the end of the year by the team and or by multiple players or at least one player who gets the most technical fouls. I think that'd be a great gesture and giving legitimately back to the community.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And everyone who's driving home in their car and is listening to that, how could you possibly poke a hole in that and say it's a bad idea? Some things like wheels on a suitcase just need to happen. It's like this needs to happen. It makes too much sense. Yep. The Spurs and the Grizzlies series is pretty much over in my mind. Do you feel the same way about the Cavs and the Pacers?
Well, nobody thought the Spurs or the Cavs would lose in the first round. I wouldn't be surprised if both of those series go 5 just because Indiana found ways to score in Cleveland. They shot 50% from the floor and still lost the game. And we talked about Memphis and what they could possibly get done on their home floor. But I would be surprised if they go longer than 5, either series at this point.
Jalen Rose, you knew I ran a marathon. And
yes, indeed, to benefit the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy. Thank you, my brother.
I did, of course.
I see you walking like Phil Jackson. We got to get into that yoga.
I do need to get in that yoga. I was in the cold tub. You know I don't like to be in the cold tub. That knee's got to get right. Comes to find out, running a marathon, hard on your body. Didn't know that, especially at 39 years old. And after you run the marathon, you get these emails from different companies or whatever because you signed up for this email list. You got to put your information in or whatever. And Skechers was the sponsor of my marathon, something that my wife was very upset about. She was very upset about. The Boston Marathon has a more acceptable sponsor, Adidas. And they sent out this email to the people that ran the marathon. Congrats. You survived the Boston Marathon, it read. What? Obviously, anyone with half a brain that knows anything about what has happened in the last decade in this country knows that there was very famously a bombing at the end of the Boston Marathon. How does this happen? How does someone approve this email? I understand how someone writes it, but how does someone approve this? How does a major company like Adidas send out an email that says, congratulations, you survived the Boston Marathon?
It's unfortunate to be so tone deaf in that situation, but I also want to tell you something. And you were talking about Skechers versus Adidas. As the founder of a charter high school, all sponsors are created equal, sir.
That's fair.
That's number one.
That's fine. I'm allowed to have an opinion versus Skechers versus Adidas. I'm going to go Adidas all day. I've never worn a Skechers in my life. In my lifetime. Also, you never have either.
And also, I agree with you on just the level of so many people seem to have to approve something that goes out to the masses. You would have thought at some point one individual, like the Pepsi commercial that recently was pulled back, somebody would have stood on the table and said it wasn't a good idea.
Every Wednesday here at Jalen Jacoby, we celebrate the more responsible, more intelligent, stronger, kinder gender, the ladies, not just in our life but all around the world. Here on Woman Crush Wednesday, we transition into this. It's been a tough week for Carmelo Anthony. There was Phil Jackson saying that he'd be better off playing somewhere else, and now there are a lot of reports that him and his wife are now separated. They're not talking divorce, but they are now separated. And an E-Online source also said this about rumors that he had impregnated another woman. Quote, Carmelo did not tell Lala. She found out on her own, and at that point it was too late, and Carmelo could not dig himself out of it. She still doesn't know the whole truth. He's been messing with strippers for a long time now, end quote. Again, that is an E-Online source that is saying that. But what does all of this say to you, Jalen Rose?
You know how much we love power couples on this show. And I'm just going to let everybody know, don't be on my timeline with any slander for Carmelo, talking about he lost his only ring, talking about she traded him for power, cheering for the fact that they may or may not be together. Usually those are people that are unhappy with their own situations. Number one. Two, I'm not here to condone cheating in any way, shape, or form. I hope that whatever the story is, whether she happens to be a stripper or not, we get the full story, and eventually the way it's become for public consumption, it seems like it's going to be something that not only Lala, but Carmelo have to address. And at that point, it's up to them to decide if they still want to be together or not for the public.
So there is this reputation that professional athletes have that I want to discuss with you. And you know what that reputation is. All professional athletes cheat on the women in their lives. Do they deserve that reputation?
Not at all, because just look in your own situation of people that aren't athletes, aren't entertainers, aren't politicians, aren't public figures. You still see people, male and female, cheating on their mates. So it's not just reserved for those that have more money possibly, or more fame, or more influence. You think because you have more wherewithal to travel and things of that nature that it will be more prevalent. but actually those that want to will, regardless of their means.
Does it make it harder to have a successful, trusting relationship as a professional athlete, knowing that you have this reputation that you have to overcome?
No, you don't worry about people's negative connotations of yourself or reputations. There's a reputation that athletes are dumb jocks, but I don't go around thinking about it all day. Athletes shouldn't go around trying to disprove and speak that into existence all day. Just be the best version of yourself you could possibly be. And this is something that gets said about athletes not being faithful to their mates. And I'm pretty sure a lot of times where there's stereotypes, there are some facts to go with it, but I'm not going to just support a blanket statement like that.
Nope. And then we have this.
And also, I got to say this.
Go for it.
You say professional athletes, women cheat too.
Women are also professional athletes.
Okay.
Serena Williams has just announced that she is pregnant. Oh, wait. No, she didn't. She deleted it. What she did do is put up a picture of her profile with her sort of stomach accentuated with the caption, 20 weeks. Do you think it's an odd way to announce your pregnancy?
Yeah. I think it's a unique way. She's accomplished so much as a tennis player, as a humanitarian, as a role model, as a success story. There's no true way other than, I guess, apple pie, white picket fence.
You can't compete with Beyonce. I think that's what she did. She saw what Beyonce did with the rainbows and the veil. She saw all the Beyonce and said, you know what? She's all the way up here with her production value. I'm going to go all the way down here. As a very serious journalist, I do have one thing I want to caution people with. Anyone that has had a very hearty meal that has then looked down at their stomach and been like, oh man, 10 weeks pregnant, everyone has made that joke. And there's a little piece of me, like 10% of me thinks that Serena might have been making that same joke and just messing with all of us. Do you buy that?
I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see.
Let's imagine that she is pregnant. Congratulations to her. Wish her the best and a healthy, happy baby. And then let's go down the hypothetical that she passes this human being. She creates a life with her body and then goes on to win another major. Is she then the greatest athlete of all time, unequivocally?
I love that description on a Women Crush Wednesday and how you pay homage and salute to how that process is something that you and I both know that we would not be able to endure for any months, especially 9 months, carrying another individual inside of us and giving a healthy birth. Yeah. So with that being said, if she was to not play again, she's already accomplished exactly what you said. So I don't think her now having a baby and competing validates that.
Yeah, that's fair. I know you have Larry Bird in your phone, Jalen. I know you do. Has he texted you with this question, should I just tear it all down, lose Paul George, and build around Lance Stevenson? Has he asked you that yet? Or did you offer up any advice? Like, I know you and Larry have texted about Lance at least once. Just true or false, he is planning on getting rid of Paul George and all the other pieces and just keeping Lance and Miles Turner and building around those two.
He has not, is not, and will not talk about tearing down any basketball team and building around Lance Stevenson.
Nope. Just touch your nose if you can't say it on wax, and it's actually true.
Here's where I want to go with this too. So it's going to be interesting to see if Paul George makes All-NBA. Same with Gordon Hayward, because that's about a $70 million decision for both of those players. I think if they are able to achieve those goals, they both stay with those teams. And I know I question the players for putting media in a position to decide that level of money. Even though a player like James Harden put up the kind of stats that he put up last year and didn't make any of the All-Star teams, you would think that they wouldn't give the voters that type of leverage and or power. Here's my suggestion for the Players Union and the league. Listen to me closely. The bar's too high. It shouldn't be that Anthony Davis, Paul George, Gordon Hayward have to make All-NBA. It should be they need to be All-Stars. And guess who votes for the All-Star? The coaches, the players, and even the fans. And the bar's lower. So instead of satisfying only 15 players on 3 All-NBA teams, you could possibly satisfy up to 24 players and keep your teams in tow.
See, Jalen, You vote, and they give you an official vote because you're so knowledgeable about the league and your experience, and also because you have really good ethics and morals. I know this about you. That's one thing that's different between you and I. If they gave me a vote, I would reach out to Paul George's agent and be like, this is for sale. This is for sale. There's a number on this. It's either you or Hayward. The bidding starts at $1 million. This vote is for sale. I'll put it up on eBay and just open it up to fans, and Pacers fans and Jazz fans. That's exactly what I would do, and I would have no shame about it. I would laugh my way all the way to the bank. Do you support that policy?
That would be your last year voting.
Probably. Yeah. It's not Grayson Allen's last year at Duke. He is coming back. And do I have to get ready for a chorus of people telling me how great the college is going to be for him and how he's going to mature there and it's going to make him a better, not just a better basketball player, but a better man? Do I have to brace for all of that?
Well, some of that is true. He's had emotional joyrides on the floor. They haven't been able to achieve their goals while he's been there, in particular, consistently competing for championships. A lot of players, when they are highly acclaimed as he was, you think the journey is going to be 1 year, maybe 2 years, and there's a stigma attached to players that end up staying 4 years. But some of the more productive players currently in the league were 4-year prospects. Look at the backcourt in Portland, C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard. Also, a guy like Draymond Green. Was a 4-year performer. So it takes players different times to develop. And after what he's went through and put himself through, is all self-inflicted in a lot of ways, I think that was the right decision.
I just want to say this. Carmelo.
Mello.
Mr. Anthony. Mello. Stay mellow. Carmelo.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Jalen Rose, there's a lot to discuss in the world of sports and pop culture. Not all of it is worthy. This is when we sort that out. I'm going to name a headline. Jalen Rose, if you would like to discuss it, you tell me to hit the brakes. And otherwise, we'll just keep it moving.
We be moving, you know, we keep it moving.
The Patriots visited the White House.
Keep it moving.
You know, we keep it moving.
Aaron Rodgers is playing less
Keep
golf.
it moving.
We be moving, you know,
We're not forcing any football topics.
Sharif O'Neal, Shaq's son, commits to Arizona.
Hit the brakes.
I like that.
A lot of times when we talk about player development around the country, probably over the last 20 years, in particular since Coach K has risen to greatness and prominence, the greatest coach of his era, probably second all-time to Wooden.
I love where you're going.
And Coach Cal also embracing a one-and-done culture, winning one championship, which is surprising, but producing multiple All-NBA, All-Star caliber performers that are making hundreds of millions of dollars in the NBA. Yep. There are certain players that have been – there are certain programs over that time span have been flying under the radar, like Jim Calhoun and UConn. Arizona, what they've done, not only with Lou Olson, but now with Sean Miller. And also Kansas under Bill Self. They find ways when you look down at McDonald's All-American rosters, when they're not at the first two schools that I mentioned, usually they're scattered through those other couple of teams I just talked about. So great job of recruiting. One of the top players in the country, who obviously is Shaquille O'Neal's son. Looking forward to watching them ball.
And one thing I want to say is people take it for granted when people have very successful sons at basketball. Like, I think people expect LeBron James' son to be excellent. That is not a given. You know, like, ask Michael Jordan's kids. Like, just because Shaquille O'Neal was gigantic and great at basketball doesn't necessarily mean that his kid doesn't have to work to be gigantic and great at basketball. So shout to him. I'm only saying that because my son is really bad at sports. Let's move on.
Leave Quincy alone.
Jerry West wants a job offer from the Lakers.
What?
Deservedly so, but keep it moving.
We be moving, you know, we keep it moving.
The logo.
The Pistons plan to match any offer sheet that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope gets.
No surprises. One of my favorite players on the team. Keep it moving.
I'm going to hit the brakes on that one. Jalen, if he gets a max offer from another team, would you suggest that the Pistons match a max offer for KCP?
I try to get everybody to understand something. Stop judging NBA and NFL players by their contracts. It's a salary cap driven sport. You only get what you have the leverage to negotiate. We're not sitting around talking about what golfers, tennis players, NASCAR drivers. We're not sitting around debating what they should make. So if somebody's going to give him that type of money to play basketball,
then he should take it.
More power to him.
That's not my question. I mean, if he can get a max offer, you'll get whatever you get. But should the Pistons match a max offer?
I would think so. The same way it happened in Charlotte with Nicholas Batum. The same way it happened in Memphis with Mike Conley. He's a terrific young prospect, and his contract is up. Got to pay the man. That's how this game goes.
Aaron Rodgers is playing less golf so he can get
Keep it moving.
Marlins' Wei Yin Chen was pulled from a no-hitter versus the Mariners after 7 innings.
Keep it moving.
Oh, no, I wanted to hit the brakes on that. Can I say one thing? Don't ever take me out of the game if I have a no-hitter. I don't care how many people I've walked. I don't care how many times I've squeezed out of the inning with the bases loaded. I could have thrown 275 pitches. Don't take me out of the game. Just don't.
He's already had arm issues. You got to protect him for the marathon.
I'm staying in the game. I want that no-hitter. We're not going to win the World Series this year. I want to win the no-hitter. Michael Phelps hopes he doesn't get the feeling to return to swimming.
Keep it moving. I hope to see the all-time great stay retired. He put in his work. I'm a huge fan of his.
Ranchers were stunned as a beaver herds 150 cattle.
I'm just going to do this for you. Hit the brakes.
Yes. So here's the thing. As we prepare this segment, one of my favorite producers, John Lawrence, sends me a list of headlines for this segment, and I add to it and take some away. I have so many follow-up questions on this and no follow-up information. Like, where are we? Like, if I was going to say a beaver herded 150 cattle, where in the world is that, Jalen Rose? What would your answer be?
I need to see the footage.
It feels like Canada or Wyoming. It feels like a Wyoming or a Montana or an Idaho type of a state, something like that. And I feel like the beaver was really just playing. You know, thank you for doing this for me, by the way, because you know I wanted to talk about this. The beaver was just playing by a river, and he saw some cattle, and he started running towards them. He's like, wait, I can control these cattle? These gigantic animals I can control just by running around them? And now we have an update, Jalen Rose. Hold on a second. It was in Saskatchewan, Canada. I should have known. Canadian beavers are extremely intelligent animals. Extremely intelligent animals. They've studied beaver structures. Then some of the things that architects have just been developed in the last 100 years or so, beavers have been doing for thousands of years. I completely made up that last fact. That is off the top of my head a complete lie. But it played well, didn't it? All right, we can keep it moving. Sorry.
We be moving, you know, we keep it moving.
Brad Stevens has the worst playoff winning percentage in NBA history.
No, that's misleading because records sometimes don't take circumstance into effect, in particular the tragedy that they're dealing with now with Isaiah Thomas losing his sister. Keep it moving.
Okay. After the loss to the Bulls, Avery Bradley said, quote, I looked around a few times in the game. Guys were putting their heads down, I think getting down on themselves.
Keep it moving.
We be moving, you know, we keep it moving.
The NCAA tournament is avoiding New Jersey through 2022 because the state is pushing for legalized sports gambling.
Keep it moving.
We be moving, you know, we keep it moving.
A large asteroid is whizzing by the Earth today.
What?
I haven't seen it, so keep it moving.
Jalen, you know if it has anything to do with an asteroid or space, we got to hit the brakes just for me.
All right.
NASA is confident the world will not be destroyed by a large asteroid that will pass by Earth today. The asteroid is expected to be 1.1 million miles away. Here's what I don't like. NASA is confident the world will not be destroyed. NASA, let me tell you something if you work for PR for NASA. Just say the world will not be destroyed. We will not fact check you after the fact, but don't say you're confident the world will not be destroyed. Yeah. I look to you for leadership. You are the person that gives me all my space information, so just lie to me a little bit, a little white lie. Just say, you know what, we checked it out. The earth is not going to be destroyed. Because guess what? If you're wrong, no one cares. Thank you very much. Nope. Jalen Rose, it is time for my new favorite segment, Soft Move or Boss Move. Are you ready?
Let's get it.
Rob Gronkowski interrupted Press Secretary Sean Spicer's briefing to ask if he needed any help. Was that a soft move or a boss move?
Soft move.
Really? I like it. Tell me why.
I really like Gronk as a football player, as a personality. I enjoy the fact that he seems to have as much fun living his life as anyone. And that's one of the hardest things for all of us to do. For your words and your feelings to actually match up with who you are when no one else is watching. I think that's what he does that I am a fan of.
I like that.
Yeah. However, a lot of the things he does that the world thinks are fun and silly, like snatching Tom Brady's jersey and running 5 steps during a baseball game, or what you just described, I think they're overhyped by the media. So that's why I say it's a soft move.
Yep. Here's why I think it's a soft move. We don't need to make any more of a mockery of those events than they already are. And I'll leave it at that.
Well said.
The tennis match in the Sarasota Open between France Tiafoe, sorry if I said your name wrong, France. I'll call you Frankie. Frankie Tiafoe and Mitchell Kruger were having a match at the Sarasota Open. The match was interrupted by a sound coming from the crowd, coming from somewhere. And this sound was coitus. Human coitus sounds interrupted the tennis match. The announcer explained there was probably someone in the crowd that had their telephone a little too loud while watching some adult videos. And then the sounds returned. Let's give it a listen.
I still hear it. It's still going. What is going on?
It can't be that good!
No, that's not a phone.
Nope, that's not a phone. Having your coitus interrupt a professional tennis match. Soft move or boss move?
Boss move.
Oh, I disagree. I disagree.
No question about it, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why. Get into it. If you're going to do it, let yourself go. Yep. The next thing, stamina. If he interrupted the tennis match, that means they were going for enough time to get everybody's attention. Yeah, and I appreciate that.
It wasn't a 100-yard sprint. It wasn't a 100-yard dash that they were interrupting. Nope. I got to go soft move here. I'm with Tiafoe. It isn't that good. It can't be that good. Like, part of this has just got to be theatrics here. Come on. And then I found out, listening to the announcer, like, oh, it's an apartment across the lake. Across the lake?
What?
Across the lake?
What?
Again, you know I don't like intensity, Jalen. That's too intense. That's too intense. You know we love power couples. We always celebrate power couples here on this show. A-Rod and J-Lo, great power couple. I love this power couple. They went down to a villa in the Dominican Republic that was very close to the home of her ex-husband, Mark Anthony. Going on vacation right next to your ex-husband's house with your current boyfriend. Soft move or boss move?
Boss move. Jenny from the block ain't playing around. Nope. And also for her and A-Rod, there's a level of security. Everybody has a past. Hey, ladies. Hey, fellas. I know you think that you were the only person in your mate's phone of all time. That's not true. There was actually someone before you. Each of us have a past. And quality relationships embrace that and move forward respectfully. They got a lot of bread. They can travel wherever they want to go. She's probably familiar with that area, and or A-Rod's familiar with that area. I don't see any harm in it. I'm glad there probably wasn't any altercations with her ex or anything like that. Boss move. Everybody's grown up, mature, and secure.
See, I'm going to go soft move here. if I'm A-Rod, there's a part of me that's like, you know, like you said, we have bread. We can go anywhere in the world, and we're going right next to your ex-husband's house. Are you kind of using me? Like, it's fine if you use me for emotional support, sexual satisfaction, whatever you're using me for, but don't use me as a tool to get back at your ex. There's a part of me that's like, is this the only reason we're going here is so maybe he sees us together, or maybe he sees the reports, or maybe he hears that we're around? There's a little part of me that thinks that perhaps Mr. Rodriguez needs to check Jenny from the Block's motivations. Paul George has called out a teammate, first CJ Miles and then Lance Stevenson, after every playoff loss. Soft move or boss move?
Boss move. This is what we want from our favorite athletes. You want Tom Brady to get on the podium and actually tell you what happened. You want LeBron James to explain why the Cavaliers aren't playing quality defense. The media says it's calling out, but you take off the fact that he gave 15,000 compliments while he was making a statement. You edit the 5 seconds that you feel like he said something that is questionable, and then you make that the news story or the clip. In particular, to Lance Stevenson, he said he was a leader in the locker room.
Yep.
They just picked the guy up 2 weeks ago. That's the ultimate compliment.
10 days and he's a leader in the locker room. It is interesting because if you do watch even the stuff with CJ Miles, he's saying I need to take the shot there, but he was also sort of like, just, you know, he wanted the ball back, but he wasn't throwing CJ Miles under the bus. There is a lot of times, especially on the internet, where the headline and then the actual video don't really match up, and this is one of those times. Like, Paul George calls out Lance Stevenson, then you watch it, it's like, yes, it was a sort of a backhanded compliment, I suppose, about body language, but it's not exactly like he's saying Lance Stevenson is the reason that we're down 0-2 to the NBA championship, Cleveland Cavaliers. Yep. There's been a lot of discussion about Carmelo and Lala. Lala was photoed without wearing a wedding ring, as was Carmelo Anthony. But Carmelo Anthony never wears a wedding ring because he has a tattooed wedding ring. The best soft move or boss moves are just right there in the middle, which is where I think tattooing a wedding ring on yourself is. Tattooed wedding ring. Soft move or boss move, Jalen Rose?
That's a tough call.
Exactly.
I'm trying to think of other notables that I've heard about doing this.
This just broke you. Oh, I can't lie. I've never gone to lie on wax. I've thought about it. I don't have a single tattoo, but I've thought about the wedding ring tattoo.
Well, that swayed me. Boss move.
It's a boss move now? I think it's a boss move. I'll tell you why it's a boss move. If you thought about it,
wait, here's the thing. It's kind of like I was saying with the tennis match. The hardest thing for adults to do, number one, life changes when all of the bills in your name. Mm-hmm. It's to take care of yourself. The second hardest thing it is to do, to actually commit and or sacrifice for something that's not you. And so a tattoo is an imagery of somebody that you're passionate about, that you love, and it becomes a signature of a relationship. Because look at it like this. There are people that are married that don't wear their rings. So what do you say about those people? So that's why I feel like to own it and get a tattoo is a boss move.
Do you know what such a boss move was? Starting that sentimental, emotional, affecting rant with, it's like I said about the tennis match with the couple that was having sex. That was a boss move by you, Mr. Rose. Finally,
a lot of boss moves today.
Projected top 5 pick Markelle Fultz. Quote, I want to be Rookie of the Year. I want to come in and honestly, I'm trying to be the MVP next year. Undrafted rookie saying that he wants to be the MVP of the NBA. Soft move or boss move?
So here's where I want to teach fans and media something. When you talk about Paul George putting his teammates on blast, he didn't go to the podium and say, I'm the best player in the game. I hope to be MVP. They should have given me the basketball. This is a rookie who I think has the opportunity to be the number 1 pick in the draft, is a terrific prospect, has all-star potential. I'm a fan of his. I'm a fan of Balls. I'm a fan of Monks. There are a few players that I'm really excited about in this year's draft. But to say this at this point is definitely a soft move. Put your work in, young fella.
Soft move. Jalen Rose, where do I like to keep the expectations?
Get low. Get low.
If you call 985-80-JALEN and you leave us a message, we will play it on the show. Today is Women Crush Wednesday, so I'm hoping we have a female voicemail. Let's get it.
What up, Doe? This is Marissa.
And Max.
And we were just wondering what your favorite crossover athlete is. For example, Steve Nash, excellent soccer player. Gordon Hayward, we heard last night, is an excellent high school tennis player. Who do you think and or believe are the best crossover athletes? Thanks, get at me, and keep doing what you're doing. We love you. Bye.
Thank you so much, Melissa and Max. Big shout to you guys. I'm going to answer this one first, Jalen Rose, because I have one.
Melissa and Max, power couple.
Power couple right there. Allen Iverson.
Yep.
Okay, I'm not going to say Allen Iverson is going to start at quarterback for the Steelers next season, but Allen Iverson was an underrated, extremely impressive high school quarterback who I have seen with my own eyes. I saw this with my own eyes in front of me dribble a football around like it was a basketball. It was one of the most shocking feats of athleticism I've ever seen, and he did it without even caring, without preparing, without messing up, and was most likely intoxicated. Jalen Rose, you go.
I think she was talking about current players, so I'll mention a couple of all-times just to kind of satisfy what you did. All-time is clearly Deion Sanders.
That's fair.
No doubt about it. From his exploits at Florida State to obviously what he accomplished in the NFL and then to play Major League Baseball, to be a player that did both on the exact same day is just tremendous.
Yep.
He invented what we know to be in a lockdown corner and shutting down the side of the field. Another guy comes to mind is clearly Bo Jackson.
Oh, that's right, Mr. Jackson.
No doubt about it. What he did in baseball and what he did in football, he's still getting commercials for running over the bars. I was doing that with him on Tecmo Bowl back then.
Yep.
Other guys that come to mind, Wilt Chamberlain.
Yep.
People talk about the 50-25 season, but he was also a terrific track and field athlete.
Isn't Jim Brown one of the greatest lacrosse players
Jim
of all
Brown,
time,
one of
too?
the greatest lacrosse players to ever do it, plus he's a Hall of Fame football player. So there are a lot of notables. Currently, I would probably say...
I have a nugget for you, Jalen. I have a nugget for you. Tom Brady was drafted in the MLB. So here's one thing about
Everybody
that.
gets drafted to the MLB.
That's one thing about that is like
Tim Tebow playing
they draft
in the minor
100,000
leagues.
people a year. Like if people get drafted at 16, like people just take flights. I swear, I think assistant general managers like make the 9th round picks and they're half asleep. But here's the interesting part. As a catcher, he was drafted. Usually quarterbacks are drafted as pitchers. Thank you so much for the question, power couple, Melissa and Max. Let's listen to the next female voicemail here on Woman Crush Wednesday on Jalen Jacoby.
Hey, Jalen. Hey, Jacoby. I'm just Holly Tripathi from Atlanta, Georgia, and I've been a fan of your podcast over the past year, thanks to my ex-boyfriend, Udi. He actually got me to read your book, Jalen, which was phenomenal. I wanted to ask you two things. Can you shout out Udi from Chicago? He's followed the pod for a long time, and he's a huge fan. My second question is, what are your top 3 food establishments in the city of Atlanta? Keep giving the people what they want, and thank you for your Woman Crush Wednesday. Shout out to Reggie in the back. Shout out.
Okay.
Shout out.
One thing, I gotta say it. I've been in this business for 15 years, and I can tell when someone is speaking and when someone is reading. And she took that one off prompter. That one was up. That was an email that her ex-boyfriend sent to her, and she read it, the whole thing verbatim, into the voicemail. But you know what? Shout out to her, Woman Crush Wednesday. Big shout out to her ex-boyfriend. But don't think that you can sneak that past Jacoby.
Shout out.
Thank you for the call. We appreciate the voicemail. Good luck in your relationship, however it plays out. We appreciate the support. As far as my favorite restaurants in Atlanta, this is really simple. In my Dave Chappelle voice, Waffle House, Waffle House, Waffle House.
Great answer to that. Great answer to that. Let's listen to the next female voicemail. Thank you so much for the calls.
Hey, fellas. It's Elle hollering at you again from Naples, Florida. I'm really enjoying watching all the first rounds of the NBA Finals, particularly the Cavs versus Pacers matchup. I'm a Hoosier at heart, despite the fact knowing the Cavs will eventually win. But I wanted to ask you guys, 0 to 100, how jealous do you think LeBron James is of Paul George's perfect hairline? Question at heart. Enjoy y'all's live show tomorrow. Much love, and talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for the call. I also appreciate her support of the live show.
Yes,
it's
indeed.
like she knows my schedule better than I do. Let's answer
Looking
the
forward
question.
to meeting the people. That's
That's
going to be awesome.
That's giving the people what they want. Thank you so much if you bought tickets. We look forward to seeing you. Jalen Rose, 0 to 100. How jealous is LeBron James of Paul George's hairline?
98%?
Really? Yep. 98%? So take me behind the curtain on this, because I didn't realize how much you personally cared about hairlines. But, like, is that ideal? Because I look at Paul George, I'm like, your eyebrows are too close to your hairline. Like, there's a couple millimeters between where his eyebrows stop and his hairline starts. Is that desirable?
That's spoken from a guy that has a receding hairline in yourself.
Yeah, but it doesn't bother me.
So
I don't
you
care.
can't appreciate it.
I'm not in the game.
Anytime you get confused, look over your right shoulder at your logo. That's exactly what your hairline looks like. That's number one. Number two, here's the only reason why I say 98%. It's because LeBron James has everything.
I know, he's got everything.
Like, literally, he's a mogul. He's going to be $1 billion athlete.
Production.
He has his own company.
He sold
he's
beats for $1 billion.
He's a husband.
Blaze Pizza.
He's
I
a
got
champion.
open my own high school,
He's the Finals MVP. He's opening a school. He has his own camp.
Do you want me to do another Space Jam?
Shoes.
Maybe I'll do another Space Jam. Who knows?
No doubt
by the way,
about it.
Uninterrupted, that's my entire network that every athlete wants to be a part of. And I make money from it. Anything else? What is my hairline ain't right?
And so it's just like anything else. You're like, what don't I have that I really want?
Yep.
And how can I try to fix it? And by the way, I got to say something that's really important while we're talking about hair and hairline.
Okay.
Don't underestimate the people you see on a daily basis, how much time, energy, and sweat equity, male and female, that they put into their hair.
Yep.
Don't underestimate that. Coloring it, cutting it, shaping it, blow drying it, doing all of the things that they feel like while they're in the mirror is going to make them feel better once they leave the bathroom. People spend a lot more time doing that than you really believe.
And it is very polite to point out that someone looks nice or put some effort into it if you see them every day. It's not polite to do it every day. It's just weird. Like at that, it's like you can't overdo the compliments, because then it's just like, what, every time you see me, you're just going to evaluate me? Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, don't tell your coworker how good they look every day.
And we're talking
That's
to the fellas.
unprofessional.
We're talking to the fellas, and you know exactly what we're talking about, fellas. Let's listen to another female voicemail.
Hey, Jalen. Hey, Jacoby. It's your girl, Angie from Philadelphia. Just want to get you guys' opinion. Just was watching SportsCenter with Mike and Jamel, and they brought up the comments that Doc River brought up about not giving up on his Clippers, and he even compared them to the John Stockton, Karl Malone Jazz, about them never giving up on each other and making it to the finals but not winning. So what do you guys think about, not breaking up the Clippers even if they don't win in this postseason? Keep giving the people what they want. Love you guys. Bye.
We love you too. We appreciate the support. Thank you for the call.
Shout out.
Here's something that's gotten diluted that I want to address.
Please do.
People are more worried about winning or getting paid than the actual process. The person that gets a championship ring at the end of the season or team, or gets the honor to raise the banner, that isn't actually the only champion. How you approach your job every day and the effort that you bring, the focus, the discipline that you bring consistently, that actually what makes you a champion. In the NBA, the best team wins the championship because it's a 7-game series. Unlike college, and usually the best team wins. And players like John Stockton and Karl Malone, for media and fan consumption, get sorely overlooked based on the fact that DJ Banger has more championships than they do. Or that that Greg Haley, what's Haley's last name for the Bulls? Rodman's right-hand guy, Haley. That DJ Banger has more rings than them. Or Haley of the Bulls. And so we start to dilute all of their accomplishments, showing up each day for work, playing as many games as possible, playing as many years as they did for the same team. John Stockton playing his entire career for the Utah Jazz. I played against both of them multiple times. And Karl Malone, one of the all-time leading scorers and rebounders. John Stockton, one of the all-time scorer, assists, and steals guys in the history of the league. And so When Doc Rivers says that, a lot of people will give it the Heisman Trophy, like who wants to be John Stockton and Karl Malone? 98% of the world does not name Michael Jordan, Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal. You get the point.
Quick question. Who's harder to guard, John Stockton or Karl Malone?
John Stockton.
Really? Why?
Because he was receiving the pick. And Karl Malone was a brick house setting it. And then he started to learn how to slip it and fake it. It was lethal playing against those guys. I was unfortunately on the floor when John Stockton delivered to Malone, I think his 10,000th assist at Utah versus our Nuggets. And he took like 5 steps and they gave him an assist. I'm like, okay. What? I'm like, y'all got us.
Is there anything in the world you can name that you have done 10,000 times?
Absolutely. Brush my teeth.
At the very first podcast we ever did, I think I started by being like, hello, Jalen, and you said, part of giving people what they want is asking them what they want. First question is from Ron, and it is absolutely brilliant, Jalen. The best soft move or boss moves always lie right in the middle. I can make a great case for each of these, but I strongly side with one of them.
Okay.
Ordering for your lady at a restaurant, soft move or boss move?
Teamwork, dream work. It all depends on who picked the restaurant, who has a favorite thing on the menu. And when you're in a relationship, sometimes people do things better than the other. And if he orders better, it's a boss move. If she orders better, it's a boss move. They're a couple.
Soft move. Don't order for your lady at a restaurant. Yep. Here's the thing. Yep. No one's ever going to be upset if they get exactly what they asked for. You know what I mean? It's like you're just exposing yourself for criticism. If you are taking someone to a place that they have never been before and you vouch for certain menu items, then you can heavily suggest those or even say, I'm going to get this for the table because you have to try it. But I just feel like if you order for them and they do not like it, you're opening yourself up for criticism. If they order for themselves and they do not like it, you are not open for criticism.
I'm going to give you an example then.
Okay, Mr. Rose, please do.
Say there's a restaurant you guys, A, go to because he suggested it, and or B, is somewhere you both frequent.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to the restaurant and you guys sit down, before you order, she goes to the bathroom. Is it okay for you to order?
Yes.
If she say, go ahead and order me something, I don't care.
Absolutely. But that is not what Ronnie Taco was describing when he asked the question.
Got it.
Next is from Anthony Smith. If the NBA adds 2 teams, obviously we in Seattle should get one. I think that's clear. What city should get the other? Huh.
It's hard for me to think of that as a hypothetical because I don't think the league needs to add teams.
Great point.
I would love to see Seattle have one, however. That's truly the only place right now I see for expansion unless the Clippers stop being the JV team in their own building and they go to Anaheim or San Diego.
San Diego is an interesting proposition. Also, I know you're not going to like this, Las Vegas.
No.
Las Vegas.
Hate it.
Okay.
I've been on wax about this for 2 years. Bad idea. Oh, man, that's going to be a bad idea. NFL in Vegas? Bad idea.
Next question is from AK. He sends us questions all the time. Shout out to him.
Shout out.
If Jalen has the bat at the live show, will he do a Gallagher-like segment and smash lobster tails all over the crowd? See, here's one thing that AK needs to know, because I know AK listens to the show all the time. Jalen doesn't know who Gallagher is.
No.
Do you know who Gallagher is?
How about this? I'm not going to harm any lobsters.
That's a great point. Why would you waste lobsters like that?
And of course I don't know who Gallagher is. Of course I don't know who Gallagher is.
Gallagher is an old stand-up comic who was like a really good comic, but part of his act was to set up watermelon in front of the stage like a football on a tee, and he would run up with a gigantic sledgehammer, smash the watermelon, and the watermelon would go all over the crowd. Somehow, this was something that people would pay hundreds of dollars to go experience, to have watermelon projectiles flying at them while they hide underneath a plastic sheet. It really got old quick. But Jalen will not be smashing any lobster tails.
That sounds cultural.
Next question is from AK. Who's more excited about the 420 show, you or Jalen?
Equally excited. It's our first time doing it. We appreciate the opportunity we're given by our bosses and our employers. And we really enjoy the fact that they understand our audience so much that they did it on 420. That's not an accident.
I love it. I love it so much. It's going to be so much fun. If you aren't in the Los Angeles area and you weren't lucky enough to get tickets, don't worry. You're going to be right there with us. We're going to record every single thing that happens. We'll take some pictures, and we're going to put that out as a special podcast. Make sure you don't miss the Thursday 420 special podcast from Jalen Jacoby live from Los Angeles. Next from Christian Gonzalez. Soft move or boss move wearing a hoodie on a sunny day?
It's always a boss move rocking a hoodie.
Okay. I mean, I sweat a lot, so that doesn't really work for me. What about this one? Top of my head. Soft move or boss move, jogging in a hoodie to sweat extra. I see a lot of people doing this.
Well, that's just like saying wearing oversized clothes or wearing multi-layers to get yourself to sweat. I mean, that has to be a boss move under the connotation. I think we're kind of reaching for soft move or boss moves on this one.
Okay, that's fair. This is from Big Crown. I always support Big Crown. Is champagning and campaigning during the playoffs different from champagning and campaigning during the regular season? And if so, how? Absolutely.
It's real simple. There's regular season champagne and postseason champagne. It tastes a lot better in the playoffs.
I have to assume that players go out less during the playoffs than they do during the regular season?
Of course.
Okay.
Less teams, less players, less of a sample size, more eyeballs watching.
How do I put this? Are players less inclined to woo members of the opposite sex during the playoffs than they are during the regular season?
It's not like boxing. Not like boxing.
Travis has a simple question. Reheating leftover pizza, recipe for a good time or recipe for disaster?
Nothing wrong with warming up pizza, chicken, a few other things.
Here's one thing you know about me. You know about me. I'm the pizza specialist here. You're the statue guy. I'm the pizza guy. Listen, spend the extra 15 minutes to warm up the oven and put it on a tray and put it in the oven. It's going to be so much better when you put it on the oven. Another thing you can do to spice it up a little bit, sprinkle some pepper on there. Got some little basil. Just put a little garlic powder on there. Just kind of re-season it a little bit to give it some new life. All pizza questions I'm going to tackle.
Get it.
Another food question. Taco Bell is coming out with a chicken pizza. Jeffrey wants to know, what's the worst fast food idea you've heard of?
Worst fast food idea? I'm not going to say it's necessarily the worst, but some of these burgers getting triple and quadruple layered.
That's exactly where I was going.
Chicken and
That's exactly where I was going. All of a sudden,
onions.
The latest is the steakhouse burger they have. I believe it's at Carl's Jr. It's almost like it's like a big prank, and they're goofing with us in the Carl's Jr. Research and Development Department, because now it's a steakhouse burger, which comes with 2 patties, cheese, fried onions, and get this, and potatoes on the burger. I don't need potatoes on the burger. If you have a single cheeseburger, you want to throw some fries in there, no big deal if you're at McDonald's. But you don't need to keep stacking sides on the burger part. The problem with my meal wasn't that I can't eat it all at once and pick it all up off the plate. I'm happy to have an entree and also separate sides, as they are sides.
And plus, I don't want to open my mouth to capacity to bite into my food.
It's a great point. Because they always cut away in the commercial when the model goes to eat the gigantic, disgusting burger. They always cut away really quick because she was like, and take 5. She was like, this is awful.
You got to cut this thing into 100 parts.
David Boyle has a good soft move or boss move. Meeting your significant other online and then lying about how you met.
It's always a soft move when you're lying.
Great point. Lying is always a soft move.
Own it. Yep. We met online.
Is always a soft move. Always a soft move. And own your history. Here's what you should do, though. Make it a little bit of an interesting story, because people are going to ask you for the rest of your life, how did you meet? So make it somewhat interesting. Be prepared for that question and have an interesting answer. Thank you so much for listening on ESPN Radio, for watching on ESPN2 and ESPN News, and subscribing to the
Thank
Jalen
you.
and Jacoby podcast.
You're far too kind.
We